Greetings, comic fans, and welcome to another episode of Uncle Jay's Comic Adventure. I'm super excited to be back with you today, and I have some awesome books to share with you. I started collecting comic books in the 1980s, and I collected in the early 1990s and got out of it for a while, but I'm glad to be back. But I really enjoy those early 1990s books, especially the Marvel books from that time, and I want to share some of those with you today, specifically some of those that I have in the grade of 9.8. I'm going to start out this discussion with an example of one of the most popular books from that time period. We're talking about Spider-Man #1. This book, of course, in all the variations, sold well over 2 million copies. But, you know, it's a beautiful book. You could see why this cover is very attractive. It would certainly make one want to pick it up off the rack. And of course there were several variants, so that kind of had a lot of appeal to the collectors, including myself. I bought several copies of this. I've had this one in my collection ever since it came out, really, and finally got around to getting some of these graded. Here's another example of the book in a 9.8 with the silver cover. These are all direct editions. At that point I was buying pretty much all my books direct rather than getting them off the rack. Again, same basic book. Some people like the green looking cover, some people like this one. My favorite is actually the second print with the gold cover, which I do have. I haven't sent that one off yet. I probably will at some point. Of course, I'm really into Spidey books. Another interesting character that came out around that time, Miguel O'Hara, or Spider-Man 2099. I have this one in a signature edition, 9.8 CBCS. This is a verified signature. It's one of those that I actually sent in to be verified that it was actually a signature of Rick Leonardi, the artist. You can see a signature. It's kind of hard to make out. The colors are a little bit hard to spot unless you catch it just in the right angle, but looks pretty good. Really do like the cover on Spider-Man 2099. And of course we're likely to see this character a whole lot more in the next Spider-Verse movie, as I've come to understand. Another book that was very popular at the time, drawn by one of the more popular artists of the time, Rob Liefeld. And of course I'm talking about New Mutants #100, which is the first appearance of X-Force. Pretty much all the mutant books were super popular back then. I bought pretty much all of them, and I really enjoyed the mutant books, especially the X-Men. I liked the X-Factor as well. And this is not Liefeld's greatest cover, I will admit that. Personally, I prefer really X-Force #1 to this as far as the cover, and certainly New Mutants '98. And people do talk about the print runs being high. I'm sure they were pretty high at this point, but still a pretty nice book. We've not heard a lot from X-Force as far as in the movies. That could happen, might not, but I think it's a distinct possibility. Of course, we also have, we've heard lots of rumors, and we've seen lots of Venom so far, but I think we have a great chance of seeing a lot more Venom, specifically in the MCU in the years to come. And I really, really enjoyed this book right here. This is the first solo Venom book, Venom Lethal Protector. And it's kind of hard to see. I'm trying to make this light hit this just right. But there's some web hologram type stuff going on in the background of this book. Again, this is of course a 9.8 direct edition. Venom Lethal Protector #1. First solo Venom book. Now here's a book that I've really enjoyed for years and years and years. And it's the first appearance of one of my favorite X-Men characters. And I'm talking about X-Men 266. This is the first appearance, of course, of Gambit, or at least the first cover appearance. Most people would say the first full appearance. There is a cameo in X-Men Annual #14 that came first. One of the things I really like about this particular copy, the cropping of the front page is pretty good. I've seen a lot of these where the cover was kind of sliced off, maybe just right at the edge of the words, or maybe even into the word right there. But this one is pretty well framed, so I'm excited to have this. Again, this is the first, at least full appearance of Gambit, and a very iconic cover shot. I just really enjoy the cover. First full Gambit. Grew up watching those X-Men cartoons from the 90s, and Gambit played such a prominent role in that team and was really a great part of the story. Now this book right here, in my opinion, I'm sure it was heavily printed, but I would probably argue this is one of the most overlooked, undervalued of the early 1990s keys, because it doesn't sell for much at all in a 9.8, but it is the second appearance of Deadpool, another one of those famous Liefeld covers and issues. This is X-Force number 2 in a 9.8. And again, there are a lot of them out there, but there are also a lot of the New Mutants 98s out there as well. So if you look at the price those are going for, look at the numbers on the census, I think it's pretty safe to say that this book is very, very undervalued at this point. Might be a good one to scoop up if you're a speculator. And last but not least, a couple more of those, I would call these early 90s X-Men classics. The first cover appearance of Bishop. And the next one, of course, we'll look at 283. This is 282. Great cover. I really like the character. And that's, of course, 9.8. First cover appearance of Bishop. Really, he had a smaller appearance, I think, in this one, and most people think of 283 as being the first full appearance. But for whatever reason, probably because the awesome cover, seems like most collectors go for this one. But I like to have them both, and I'm just tickled to have them both as a pair in the collection. So we're talking about X-Men number 283 right here. And these both came out in 1991. Pretty nice cover, although it's interesting the difference, the style is quite different on this cover versus the 282. And I do agree with most of the collectors, I enjoy the 282 better. But this is a great copy as well. X-Men 283. And of course, these are some of those 9.8 books that just really enjoy having and showing. There were some amazing artists in the early 1990s. There still are. But that was just a great time, a very exciting time for comics. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. I enjoyed sharing these with you. I'm excited about these books. I hope you enjoyed them. If you did, please hit that like button, and most of all, please subscribe so you can see more and more content like this. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.